Angry mobs are currently breaking into storehouses all over the country, carting away volumes of suspected COVID-19 relief materials purportedly stashed away by politicians. But the more worrying part is the orgy of violence which has been trailing such actions. Last weekend, Calabar, the capital of Cross River State, got more than its fair share of the mob action, with thousands of angry youth going on rampage, burning down billion naira worth of property belonging to 2 senators from the state, the sort of intense violence that brought another senator to her knees in supplication. The same scenario is being replicated in almost all the states of the Federation, with the authorities doing nothing more than hoping and praying that the situation will not spiral out of control. But Lagos, the economic nerve center of Nigeria, remains the epicenter of the social-political upheaval, having been overrun and controlled for a few days in the last weeks by hundreds of gangster mobs who enjoyed the freedom of the city as they looted and pillaged without let or hindrance. Joining us now to look at the security implications of the ongoing mob action is Dr. Ona Ekhomu, security expert and policy analyst, as well as President, Association of Industrial Security and Safety Operators of Nigeria, and the African representative of the International Foundation for Protection Officers. Welcome to the program. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you, Ms. Leila.
This is not Leila. This is Tundu.
Tundu. Tundu. Emma Binu.
Anyway, Dr. Ekhomu, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Dr. Ruben.
Yes, but very quickly, what's your take on what is going on in the country, from NSAS to alleged killings at the Lekki toll gate in Lagos, to denials by government agencies, security agencies, and now the mob action that we have in different parts of the country, people going to liberate palliatives that have been kept in warehouses. What are the security implications? And what should government do that they are not doing?
Thank you very much, Dr. Ruben. The security implications are quite dire. We are playing with a Hobbesian state of nature, or to put it more directly, we are playing with the Somali model of management, which is anarchical management. We have here in Lagos on the 21st of October, it was a virtual, well, not virtual, it was an actual war zone in the Lekki area where I live, and I saw it firsthand. And it was quite disheartening not to have ability of the authorities to respond. You had to become your own police agency, as it were. So I think we are really playing with fire here. I think this is something that needs to be addressed very quickly, because there are issues. Why are the palliatives being hidden away from the people who are supposed to assist? Those palliatives should be given out, and now that we haven't given them out, the people are discovering where they are and trying to help themselves to it. Certainly, I don't condone, I'm not justifying looting by anyone, but I think there's a measure of perhaps not being reasonable on the part of the authorities in terms of the way they deal with the Nigerian public. And I think this is what gave birth to the NSAS movement in the first place, that there wasn't enough, I mean, the SARS abuse had been on for quite a while, but nobody heard the cries of the people. And here again, people have been crying since COVID. Even before COVID, there was much hunger in this land. And during COVID, people were crying, and the government decided to do something through instrumentality of SSIP and then Ministry of Disaster Management and whatever. COVID came in with their own donations. But these are things that, in fact, from news reports I read this morning, that they were still thinking about how to give them out. And I wonder, are you going to give them to these people after they probably died of hunger or what? So I think there has to be a little more responsibility. Responsibility means responsibility. You know, there has to be more responsibility on the part of government officials. There has to be openness in communication. We need to be able to talk to our citizens and let them know, you know, carry them along. There has to be empathy. We have to feel the pains of the people that we lead and ensure that they are with us. After all, these looters, they are not mindless. In certain places, some looters defended the properties that were about to be looted by their co-looters because they said these are good people, or this police officer is good to us. So, I mean, people are really not that stupid, as it were. And so they know where their bread is buttered. So I think we need to the government needs to move a little swiftly because even the response right now is very slow. And then certainly in the short term, to respond to this riot that I'm seeing and this looting and the brigandage that I'm seeing, perhaps, in fact, somebody has described it as an uprising that I'm seeing. We need to bring in more military assets just on pin-down functions to deter, because you want to go to that strategic level of protection. You want to deter the bad guys from going on to loot stuff. And because right now the police is still trying to find his rhythm after he's been thrown off balance, at least in the south. And before they find their rhythm in the next 14 days, thereabout, we need to get military assets out to help deter looting, at least in the south. The north has a different kind of problem. They don't have an NSAS problem there, but they do have a Kakovi looting problem. And I think the police is still in place and able in those parts to deter these kinds of actions that are going on.
The question that's often asked now is, where were the security agencies when all this looting was going on? There's some reports that in some cases there were soldiers present and they stood by and did not intervene. In other reports, you will hear that they only intervene if a property is about to be set on fire. There are other reports where properties were in fact set on fire, so there was nobody there at that point. Those properties that were set on fire, where was the fire brigade? It just appears that the security agencies lost complete control. Is there another perspective to this, or is that accurate?
Well, it depends on the orders they had. If the order is don't engage, yes, so they will stand by. They won't engage because they have to obey whoever gave them the order, whoever gave them the assignment. That's the way the military guys work and the police guys work also. Now, if you are overwhelmed, like in the case of the police, in many 20 police stations were burnt in the Lagos area, they were overwhelmed. The mobs overwhelmed them and overawed them and overtook their stations and burnt them. Now, in that case, it's not up to you. It wasn't their making that they were overpowered by the rampaging mobs. But in terms of the military, if the order is to stand by, then they will stand by. They will not engage. Now, if their order is to engage, you know, the military is not a police agency. The military does not believe in civility. So they will shoot, and they will shoot to kill, like what happened in Benin a few days ago, a couple days ago, when they went to raid the on Medical Road. They went to raid the Edo State drug warehouse, and there were fatalities there. And of course, also, you know, there was injury or there were casualty on the part of the security forces. So it depends on the order that is given. Now, if a security agent is actively abetting, perhaps carrying away some bags of rice or something, then that becomes partaking in the looting, which is illegal. Nobody will give a security officer the order to go and join in looting.
All right. Dr. Ekhomu, I read your book recently on Boko Haram, but there was a recurring decimal in that book. You kept on talking about economic implications, you know, for fueling insurgency in that case. But I also want to narrow down those economic implications in this regard. How can we start to look at that critically? Because it matters.
Yeah, it matters. I think the first thing to do, Mr. Rufai, is to stop the bleeding. We need to stop the looting, the killing, the destruction, the burning. In fact, the torching is a big problem, part of the problem, because when you torch places, that's it, it's gone. Every fire loss is a loss to the nation. Yeah, you can loot chairs and tables and bags of rice. They can be replaced, but when you burn it down, you know, the integrity of that building cannot be trusted anymore. It probably needs to be pulled down and so many other things. And then when you burn down, you burn mementos with it. Look at what happened here with the magistrates court and, you know, what have you. So the economic impact is enormous because a lot of these, take a lot of private persons who were affected by the attacks, by the mobs. Some of them weren't insured. Now we say insurance, how resilient are insurance companies? I know that there's a move right now to try to shore up the capital base of insurance companies. I think Rotus will probably tell us a little better about that. But how resilient are they in terms of this kind of widespread loss that is being experienced? Now, when you take insurance companies, they will only do the direct cost. They will only give you the direct cost of the asset that is destroyed, lost, stolen, whatever. They will not give you replacement cost. That means how much is it going to take you to put the whole thing back together again? And then certainly, God help you if you didn't insure adequately, if you didn't review or revise your insurance. Perhaps you had an asset for 20 years and you left the insurance figures at 20 years ago level. Of course, you know with inflation what it will be today. So you are out of the ballpark. In fact, you just suffered a huge net loss. So I think we need to stop the violence first. We need to ensure that it doesn't continue and create more loss for the nation. And then we need to get a little bit more nimbleness from the authorities in terms of what they need to do to assuage the public. Mr. President has said, we hear your pain, we can feel your pain, we've heard you. But then you need a lot of talking down to do of this. You need to get more state actors involved in it. But first, stop the violence. And then when we stop the violence, we can start negotiating our way out of it.
Well, Dr. Ekhomu, the Chief of Army Staff, General Buratai, is quoted in the papers today as having said what has happened so far in the last 2 weeks was an attempt to destabilize Nigeria and to also discredit the military, discredit the government. And he made a point to his men that the Nigerian army will not abandon its constitutional duties, whether this attack is coming from Nigerians inside Nigeria or outsiders. It's talking so tough, a very good strategy, a way of stopping what you refer to as the bleeding.
Thank you very much. Well, I think the Chief of Army Staff has a job to do. He has a job to keep his men informed, motivated, and ready to move. He has a lot of work on his hands right now. He has all kinds of crises in the Northwest, crisis in the Northeast, which has 11 years and counting. Thank you, Mr. Rufai, for reading the book. So he has a lot of work. You know, I mean, he has JTF in 34 states of the country. So he's really overextended. I think my thing is that, yes, the tough talk, it might deter some people. I think we should stop looking for the bad guys under the table. I think really it's a case of, you know, how we are communicating and how we are dealing with our publics. That is the youth in this case. What kind of governance services are we delivering to them? Now, if the youths are discriminant in their looting, they go to a police station. They went to one in Fege in Onitsha, and they said, no, this DPO is good. This guy is a northern DPO, and they say he's a very good guy. He encourages us, he helps us. There was a lady here, a lady DPO here, also in Lagos. Yeah, the youths themselves stop people from attacking their stations. So if that is the case, it means that our people know what is good and what is not so good for them. And this is something that is out of anger. There's anger in the land, I think immediately precipitated by the October 20th shootings, but not justifying it, but there is anger in the land. And I think, however, we have to kind of watch the narration that we are putting out there and make sure that it's something that helps and it speaks only to our own constituency, because we don't want to pour more fuel on the fire. You don't want to use the kind of rhetoric that will make more people say, okay, let's dare these guys and go out and do something really crazy. The good thing about the riots I'm saying right now is that it's a lot of hooligans, hoodlums, allies, area boys, and cultists and stuff that are doing this, which is good. Why is it good? Because these are people who are already on the criminal fringe, and they will probably be deterred even just by the presence of security forces. But if this was a principled group that was doing it like the real NSAS guys, then we'll have a problem. We'll really have a problem, because these are people who will probably stand on their principles and perhaps even choose to die on their principles rather than give up. But the people who are just there to loot because they want to grab a new fridge or TV, they just want to grab that TV and go home and celebrate and be happy. And those things can be recovered. It just takes some good searches by the authorities. They'll be able to recover some of those things.
Yes, opportunism is a lot easier to deal with than ideology. I wanted to ask you your thoughts on Operation Crocodile Smile 6 and as the basis as it was communicated to the public, and whether or not you feel it should be suspended in view of the recent tension that we've had.
Okay, the Croc Smile 6 is intended for cyber security. I think that's what I understand them to say, that is the purpose of this one this time. It's intended to extend the cyber detection capabilities of the military. I think there's a lot of concern that there's been a lot of cyber attacks, things like this fake news business that we are dealing with every day is a cyber threat. And I think its main purpose is cyber threats. Now, they have said that it's not aimed at dislodging the NSAS protesters. Well, they have been dislodged now, as it were. But they said even before the protest came to an end or was suspended, they said it wasn't aimed at that it was aimed at getting the people who were doing the Yahoo and cyber crime that we're talking about, that Nigeria is becoming quite infamous for. So in that sense, I think I agree with them. But I think there is a curious coincidence. Why is it now that we have young people protesting misgovernance and of course police brutality, as it were? It started with that, and it has metamorphosed into misgovernance. Why is it now that they are protesting those things that we are talking about doing our cyber sweep? And then, of course, people will ask, what is the method? Is it going to be the SARS method of cyber sweep, where you stop people on the road and start profiling their phones and their computers, and their laptop computers or whatever type computer they have there? Because those are crude. Those don't get anything. Cyber security is a different thing. That is just physical security they are doing. That's not cyber security. So I guess that goes back to the Nigerian thing. People don't have a good understanding of, in fact, what they are even supposed to be doing in the first place.
Couple of questions. In the papers this day today, they're talking about considering framework to devolve more control of security agencies to states. We've all talked about state police. In fact, there's a police, community angle to it that about 13 billion was released for recently. We didn't see a lot of that during this crisis. Would you push for state police at a time like this? And even the security framework and networks we have, things like Amotekun, we didn't hear most of them coming out to stop looting in a time like this. Or was it not within their purview and things like that?
Well, any insecurity is within the purview of Amotekun, whether it's kidnapping of people or whether it's stealing of goods or stealing or looting of COVID palliatives, is within the purview of Amotekun, I believe. Now, I have to make a confession today. For years, for perhaps 30 years or longer, I have been staunchly opposed to state police because I said they didn't have the pedigree, they didn't have the resourcing, the training, even the manpower, we don't even have it till now. All the things I said are still in place. But I had a chat with somebody recently, and he said to me, listen, Dr. Ona, he said, you need to agree to state police, at least support it. He said, because the federal police, they have the same problems you are talking about. And so perhaps if we break it down to sub-national level, it will start growing. There might be competition. And so let me put it this way. I've not supported state police, but I'm not opposed to it anymore. I used to be staunchly opposed to it. I'm not opposed to it. But having said that, I think the policing in Nigeria is more than sloganeering. It's more than just state police, community police. It's a little more than that. Policing in Nigeria is in trouble because the models we inherited from the British were very defective, and we've not taken the time to put in cerebral content to try to repurpose it and to refocus it and then reform it adequately to serve our national interests. It's not just the name. You can call it Nigeria Police Force, you can call it Nigeria Police Army. In fact, in many countries, the police, they are army. They are not really, they have the full military that does the military work, but the police guys wear military ranks. So it's not the name. It's not, whether you call it Nigeria Police Service or Nigeria Police Force. It doesn't matter. It's the service that is delivered that is the issue here. How good is that service? How professional is the service? How good is the supervision? What about the oversight, which is something that is being emphasized now in the wake of the NSAS crisis? What about the oversight? Who is going to oversee police functions or even police excesses? Because that's where we got it wrong with this SARS thing. When the guys went rogue, we weren't paying attention, and certainly some people were covering them up there, and so nobody cared, and now it has blown up into a wide-scale crisis, creating about losses of about 1 trillion naira by some accounts. To answer part of Mr. Rufai's question, creating such huge losses. Nigeria budget is 3 trillion naira. Now we are in the hole for 1 trillion. Just from destructions alone. It's really very unfortunate.
Well, Dr. Ekhomu, you talked earlier on about the palliatives that were looted by angry persons. And you said searches should be conducted to get those palliatives back. But some people say no, the thing to do is to, in fact, quickly distribute whatever palliatives are still left in those warehouses, that this is a case of the people taking what belongs to them anyway. What's your take on that?
Well, I'm sorry. I think I'm the wrong person to ask that question because I am a law and order person. And my take is going to be if you take something without it being given to you, the definition of stealing is, taking without the privilege or the authority to take it, and meaning to keep it, and something of value. So if it means those 3 tests of a stealing crime, then it's stealing. Whether you looted it or whether you looted it, whatever it is, it's stealing as far as I'm concerned. But however, having said that, I think in the spirit of the times, perhaps the governments, and this got to be from state to state because it happened in various states, the governments can declare amnesties that, okay, since you guys have taken your COVID stuff by yourself, well, so be it. They can declare it just in the spirit of healing, trying to say, okay, we don't want to press this further. I've heard some governors spitfire that they are going to get the people who did this and punish them severely. But I think that could be a midway. That would be just kind of something that will assuage the people. Because right now, I think the people, like they said, there's anger in the land. The people are angry. I mean, this is, you can say, yes, SARS was a southern problem, but they are grabbing COVID stuff up north too. Yola, Abuja, in other places. They are grabbing COVID stuff. So it's not just a southern problem, as it were.
Well, thankfully... Oh, you had a follow-up, Dr. Abati. No. Do go ahead.
No, please.
Yes? Well, thankfully, it appears that, we're returning to some kind of normalcy. But that's my question. Is this a new norm that we're returning to? Some people say, like, the genie is out of the bottle, that things can never be the same. Or do you feel that once this period has passed, everything will settle down again?
We should be able to come back to normal, not COVID looting normal. We should be able to come back to normal. We can, in fact, enforce normal. Because these things that are happening now, we told the government before it came to this that, look, you needed to do proper risk assessments and threat assessments and position your assets, that is security assets, such that you can ride this or prevent it. But, unfortunately, I think we have a very big government, and so it takes time for these things to seep through. And they didn't understand. Maybe there was a communication gap also. And but here we are seeing it. If I had the chance, maybe after the program, I can show you clips of these warnings that we're giving, because it's from intelligence analysis. We call it I&W, intentions and warnings. Learn the intentions of the opponent or the other side, and then you give warning about what is likely to happen. And then somebody's supposed to capitalize on that intelligence and take action. But a situation where nothing is done and then we are caught flat-footed like this, because this is what is happening. We are caught unawares. That's why you can see people looting, back and forth. So I think we will get back to normal. And now that the government has seen it, it has shocked them. They are awake. They will take steps. They will, recover. They will react. But however, it's always better to prevent than to, respond or to react, as it were.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Ekhomu, for your insights. Thank you very much indeed.